No, thank you. Sleepy. Can you come back in an hour?
Need sleepy.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligione. It's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing A-OK. Today's show is being brought to you by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Find out why we brag about the food at Sal's. You can give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328, salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Now, if you don't live in the St. Simon's Isle area, the Golden Isles of Georgia, if you will, Jekyll Island, Sea Island, and St. Simon's, and you're heading south on I-95, I'm telling you, take the 15 minutes out of your way and get over to Sal's. If you need directions, I'll give them to you. Just drop me an email, and by doing so, you'll get a free cannoli with whatever you order. Yeah. Sal won't be happy about me giving away his cannolis, but the bottom line is you'll be happy. Check it out, man. Bring a party of 20. He'll give you 20 cannolis if you all order some food. Yeah. Don't tell him I said so, but I'll break it to him. Drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com, and I'll hook you up. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. You want a free copy? Want free copies of every issue that comes out? Well, don't worry about it. I'll hook you up with that, too. Just visit my website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the JKJ Boxing Magazine cover, which is located on the right-hand side. And today's show is being brought to you in part by, you guessed it, my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can literally get a copy of it right now by visiting barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. You can also get the electronic versions. That's out too. So you can check all of that stuff out. And if you haven't gotten a copy of my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, yet, what are you waiting for? I'm telling you, it's a great read. It's a quick read. And once you start reading, you won't be able to put it down. Find out why we got a 5-star rating across the board. This is a must-read for everyone, not just boxing fans. It's a piece of boxing history. It's a piece of American history. It's a piece of black American history, something that you got to help me get corrected in all the history books. Tom Molyneux was screwed during his lifetime because of the color of his skin, and he's still getting screwed today because of the color of his skin. Find out what I get so wrapped up in trying to get this guy's recognition. And I think you'll agree with me if you read the book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. Get a copy or 2 or 5 or 10 or 12 today. Tomorrow, we will be doing our blast from the past on Sweet Pea, Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Find out what we think of him. Plus, we'll talk about his career. And, of course, we're scheduled to have Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazard join us. Coming up a little bit later on the show, I want to talk a little about the fights. We got toe-to-toe Tuesdays tonight, so we'll be watching those, and we'll talk about them tomorrow. I got some thoughts on Tuesday night fights and maybe why this series isn't doing too well. The big news today is Andre Ward, who is fighting Sergey Kovalev in the fall, in November, opened up as a favorite, a slight favorite, but as a favorite over Sergey Kovalev with the odds makers. My question today, my topic today, did the odd makers mess up here? Did they get it right? Should Andre Ward really be a favorite? I mean, I guess you could say if you were looking at his record and his accomplishments several years ago, 5 to be exact, I wouldn't have batted an eye. Of course he's a favorite. But I haven't seen anything with his last two fights that are indicative of him being able to be a favorite over Kovalev, who has realistically fought the best opposition in the light heavyweight division. Now, keep that in mind. Andre Ward's best performances throughout his career were not in this weight class. He's facing the biggest and strongest guy he's ever faced in his career in Sergey Kovalev. And Kovalev's activity level is way higher than Andre Ward's over the past 5 years. Did the odds makers get it right? Are people, maybe not just the odds makers, are fight fans, giving Andre Ward too much credit for past accomplishments? That's the bottom line. What has he shown us lately? He couldn't take out Alexander Brand, who is no killer. And he tried. For 12 rounds, he tried, and he couldn't do it. Does it really justify that he's going to be the favorite over Kovalev? At least he opened up as. I guess the betting money will determine. Speaking of betting money, college football officially kicks off this Friday with California playing Hawaii. I'm going to break it down on Friday and give you who I think is going to win, but I'm excited about the college football season and all of that. We got a bunch of emails to read, but joining me right now, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sal Rocky Sakola. What's up, Sal?
There's the old roll of the tongue. How you doing, Billy? Good morning. You left that one word. Some will call me the Enigma.
Is that,
How are you?
I hate to tell you, but they call you more than that behind your back. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. You should hear some of the things they call you.
Forget about it.
Hey, you know what I heard? I heard that they write it all down and put it on pieces of paper and put it in a place that you could find it very easily, right on your desk. That's spotlessly clean.
Hey, that's a name. That's what I ask my staff to do. Yes. Any things that need my attention, definitely you write it down and put it on my desk. I just got. Yeah. There's a controlled chaos there. I know.
Yeah. It is. I don't even think it's controlled. Don't listen. Don't make me start telling everybody about all your friggin' your oil bottle
Hey, listen,
containers.
I'm building that boat with those oil.
Don't make me mention the mushroom blue buckets you got. You could build a house with. Don't make me mention those. Don't make me mention the path that is neatly arranged so you can get from your desk to the bathroom in your office. Don't make me mention all of that stuff with all your garbage collecting. He's a hoarder, ladies and gentlemen. Sal is a hoarder. Yes, he is. He is. He won't. He refuses to give away and get rid of anything. He's a collector, a garbage collector. Anyway.
Hey, easy. I used to be a sanitation engineer.
Let me just say this. The sanitation engineer title is the beginning of all this political correctness BS. Once a garbage man in New York City, when the garbage men went on strike and wanted to be referred to as sanitation engineers, that changed everything. Nothing's been the same ever since.
The world. Those were the early Johnny Appleseed droplings that took off.
Let me tell you, that's 100% sure, 100% true. Hey, listen, before we get started, today's topic, Sal, pertains to the big fight coming up in November between light heavyweight champion Sergey Kovalev, who's pretty much regarded as the undisputed light heavyweight champion. I mean, he's got all the belts, I think, but he's taking on Andre Ward, who, has a great resume of his own. I mean, Andre Ward, Super 6 winner, and in my opinion, during that Super 6 time, I've said it a million times, during that 5 years ago when he was in the Super 6 tournament, I felt that he was number one pound for pound above that other guy, Floyd, what's his name,
Yes.
I really did, and I said that because of the level of his competition, the frequency of his fights, et cetera, but then he took that hiatus for various reasons out of the sport, and in the past 5-6 years, he's only fought twice against really, really weak opposition. And Sergey Kovalev, who's been busy over the last 5 years, granted he hasn't accomplished what Andre Ward did 5 years ago. But he's pretty much cleaned up and dominated the light heavyweight division. And keep in mind that Andre Ward fought in the super middleweight division. Well, it was announced late yesterday, that the official odds have opened up for this fight. And they have Andre Ward as a favorite going into this fight. As a matter of fact, the way it's sitting right now is you would have to lay $150 on Andre Ward to win 100, which is not that crazy. I mean, considering how boxing odds go. But if you bet 100 on Kovalev, you win $120. Do you feel that the odds makers got it right, Sal? Do you think that Andre Ward should be the favorite, or do you think the odds makers got it wrong, and maybe the money will fluctuate? You know, as the bets start coming in, obviously they adjust the lines to match the bets. What do you think about Andre Ward starting out as the favorite against Kovalev?
Well, Billy, you know me a little bit, and I'm a fan and believe that a fighter is only good as his last fight, in a sense. Now, yes, 5 years ago, Ward, without question, was effective. He had a presence. He did everything he had to do to be that very, very special fighter. And to put him up as a favorite today, especially after his last performance, which is less than spectacular, and Kovalev's last performance wasn't anything brilliant either.
Exactly.
But I still think that it's either should be based on where they currently are, not what they had 5 years ago. And I'm going to put my money on Kovalev. I'll tell you that right now. But from what I see, I don't agree with the odds makers right now. I think it should be even, pretty much going in. And, like you said, predicated on where the money is being placed, we'll see how these odds change as we get closer to the fight date.
Well, what if people want? Listen, I'm a sports bettor, and if people really want to see where the money is going to end up, you got to wait until the day of the fight. And you'll see a swing. There'll be some last-minute money placed on one side. That will be where you put your money. I mean, generally. But anyway.
You're right.
And speaking of which, college football season kicks off Friday with one game. And I am going to talk about that on Friday's show. Just a programming note, we will not be doing a live show on Thursday. We will be back tomorrow and then back on Friday. So anyway, I got some emails to read, Sal. The first one is from my man Jesse. He says, "Hey, Billy C, excellent win for Spence, but if Brooks won't fight him, then he should face Bradley, Benavidez, Felix Diaz, or Orozco." I guess he means for the vacant title, because if Kell Brook doesn't face him, they're going to strip him of the belt. But we were talking yesterday, Sal. Kell Brook has put on the weight to face Triple G pretty well. I mean, as Dax pointed out yesterday, it's not like he just ballooned up. He put on some muscle, and he looks really good at the middleweight weight. I don't see him going back down. I think he's going to stay in a bigger weight. I think he's going to fight Triple G, win, lose, or draw, and stay in either the middleweight division or drop down to junior middle. Remember, he skipped right over the junior middleweight division.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to go back to 147. Isn't it hard to get your body to go back down? I mean, we're talking about him losing a lot of weight. I mean, at the weigh-in, he was 176 at the 30-day weigh-in. He was 176. I mean, could you see him making 147 again?
It's going to be difficult, but like Roberto Duran used to jump up in between his lightweight fights to 165. I fought lightweight. I jumped up to 160, 165 at times. And, the same thing. He has the ability to do so. But based on where he is going to feel the strongest, where he's going to feel he's got the endurance to carry on for 12 rounds and punch, he has the mental faculties in place to keep sharp throughout the fight, and his endurance level and his focus level, these are all going to come into play. And he's got nothing to lose with this fight coming up except getting hurt. But I mean, when he fights Triple G, it's going to be a great fight at the middleweight division. and I'm glad there's no catch weight and all that other bull that we don't like to do in the boxing game. And it's going to be a legitimate 160 pounds. I expect him to come in very strong. And as I was hinting to you last week, Billy, I don't know. Kell Brook may have some surprises for a lot of people that night.
Well, I've said this since day one. It's going to boil down. I mean, listen, I think Triple G is one of the best fighters out there today. But I think it's really going to boil down, and he's going to either prove me right or make me look like a fool, because I know damn well that Kell Brook is going to try to outbox him. He's going to employ a similar game plan that he used to defeat Sean Porter for the title. And I think the pressure is going to come down on Triple G's shoulders. And if he can perform and be that ring general I say he is, he's going to win the fight. If he fails, if he can't control that fight, I think we're going to see Kell Brook pot-shotting him all night. And Triple G just following him around. I mean, if that happens, then I look like a fool, and Kell Brook has a really good chance of winning the fight. But at this point, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Triple G will control the ring and wear Kell Brook down. But then again, I mean, with the exception of Floyd, what's his name, everybody else realizes that Triple G is not a big middleweight. He's a small guy. And Kell Brook looks monstrous right now compared to Triple G. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But
it's so funny, as you were hinting. Let's say that fight does go the route where Kell Brook is outboxing Triple G, and Triple G's having a hard time cutting the ring off and catching him. Then you're going to see the rabble-rousers, including Floyd Mayweather, trying to say, hey, we see how he's exposed. I could fight that style. Then you're going to see everybody beat their chest wanting to get in the ring if Triple G should lose this fight. I'm not saying I think he's going to lose this fight. I think Triple G is the ring general you've professed him to be, and I think he is. I also think he's got still the devastating power for a middleweight, and I think that ultimately it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a great fight. And I think we're going to see some great action by both professional fighters.
All I know is for anybody that self-proclaims themselves the best ever to be a chicken shit and avoid a guy like Triple G, I think that tells the story 100%. You can't be the best ever if you cherry pick the best ever. The toughest guy in high school, if he's beating up kindergartners all the time, is he really the toughest guy in high school? But anyway, Jesse goes on to say, Billy, Jason Socha versus Gervonta Davis should be a good one. I can't believe Davis at such a young age is taking a tough fight like this on October 22nd. How do you see this fight? First of all, Jason Socha's you're right, Jesse. Jason Socha's no easy task for Gervonta Davis, but Gervonta Davis, he's stepping up. He's doing what young fighters do when the phone call comes. They taking a shot, and he's got to do what he's got to do. The concern I have with young fighters of today is that they're coddled so much in their careers early on that they take that jump. It's a leap. It's not just a jump. It's a big difference between the level of opposition he's faced prior to a Jason Socha. So, if he comes through, he's going to be, the next big thing. If not, then you have the naysayers that are just going to say, oh, he was exposed. And I don't know if that's fair to say. But anyway, he goes on to say, how do you see Mason Menard's progression? Will he ever step up against top-tier boxer? Hey, listen, Mason Menard, I said this yesterday. He's gaining a lot of following right now because he's been in the public eye just for 2 fights. The problem with Mason Menard was the fact that he was with a promoter, and we tried to broadcast his events several times. I say we, meaning Sal and myself, and under LDL TV. And the promoter literally said, I don't want anybody to know about this guy. He was scared that somebody was going to steal him. And, he really coddled him and fed him, that Southern Circuit, Louisiana type opponents. And now he's finally in the limelight. So I think that, if I'm him, I don't rush him because he really is just starting to see some quality opposition now. And he's coming through. So I think he needs a couple of more fights before he's ready to step up against a top-tier guy. And one last thing. He says, how do you see Luis Arias' progression in the middleweight division? Is he a threat for Triple G? As of right now, no. Nobody's a threat for Triple G in the middleweight division. If Triple G hangs on too long, I think that Arias' chances go up. And he's definitely a kid we could keep an eye on. He won this past weekend. He was on the Billy C Challenge. So good email there, Jesse. So I don't think anybody's a threat for Triple G right now. Sal, do you?
No, not right now. And I'll tell you what, like I said, we talk about him. I think pound for pound, he's one of the most complete fighters out there today, and he doesn't disappoint. He does his due diligence. He does his training. He does everything a fighter needs to do to prepare, to defend, or to gain a title. And that's why I love him. And I think that what we're going to see in this fight coming up, we're going to see some big things. I think Kell Brook is in a great position, and you know what? Maybe he'll go back down to not welterweight. I don't think he'll ever return to welterweight, but maybe junior middleweight. Who knows? But to jump the 2 weight classes, it's like when Roberto Duran left the lightweight division and went up to the welterweight division. I said, well, wait a minute. He's not even stopping and dropping by to pick up a junior welterweight title, which he could probably easily. I don't know who the champion was at the time. Maybe Antonio Cervantes. I have no idea, but I forgot. But I think, when he jumped that weight class, he knew something he wanted to do. He wanted to go to the glamour division, and he knew he could take care of the opponents in the welterweight division, which, were both, true and false. But I think Kell Brook is making a great move with this fight. And you know what? Very well, he may be sent down to middleweight after Triple G lands some hard blows. We don't know, but we'll see.
I just bet dinner against Coach. I predicted that Kell Brook, after the Triple G fight, will never go back to welterweight. He wants to bet me, so we just bet dinner, and maybe we'll throw it in. It'll be dinner at Sal's. That's all.
Dinner at Sal's. I like that.
There we go.
Hey, guess what? You come to me for that kind of celebrative dinner. I'll probably buy you both dinner.
I told him I'm going to start fasting now. I'm going to make him feed me like he's never fed a fat bastard before. But anyway, next email from my man Brett from Canada. He says, "Hey Billy C, I saw that Ward is a slight favorite in his fight against Kovalev. According to the odds makers, Kovalev isn't getting any respect anywhere, and I think he will shock a lot of people when he not only beats Ward, but possibly stops him too. Yeah, I think Kovalev will stop Ward, to be honest with you." He says he's the champion in this fight, so if nothing else, he should start out being the favorite since Ward's job is to take the belt from him. It's going to be interesting to see. Ward is such a big diva. Traditionally the champion comes out second. I wonder if Ward is negotiating. I should have asked when I was on the phone with Rock Nation the other night. I should have asked if that's one of the negotiations that Andre Ward gets to come out second. I wouldn't be shocked if he does, and I'm calling for that right now.
That would be interesting.
They'll probably what they're probably going to do. I'll tell you right now what they're probably going to do. They're probably going to have Ward come out second, but announce Ward first when they do the introductions. That's what they're going to do.
That would appease both parties, and that would be interesting.
I don't think. Hey, listen.
No,
I don't think it'd appease.
But it'd be even.
I don't even know. Does he? How does he deserve that?
I don't know.
He hasn't. I mean, how does he? First of all, we're talking about light heavyweight division. How does Andre Ward deserve any consolation in the light heavyweight division when he's fought 2 guys and both of them were less than stellar? I agree with what you said earlier. Kovalev's last performance wasn't that great, but look at who he's been fighting. He's fighting relative fighters, that are relevant to the division. Legit top 10 guys. Yeah. And Andre Ward hasn't come close to that. He hasn't come close to fighting a top 10 guy in any weight class in 5 years. 5 years.
They should do. They should follow the Super Bowl rules. They should flip a coin, and then let the other guy that didn't get the coming into the ring second, let them announce the other guy's name.
But wait a minute. Why are we even changing the rules? Every other guy gets to come out. Every other champion gets to come out second. Now,
right.
Just FYI, years ago, that wasn't the case. The champion came out first. But nowadays, The champion comes out second. So why do you got to change any rules for Andre Ward? Who the hell? Andre Ward is nothing more than a diva. And as much as I loved Andre, I was a big fan of Andre Ward's. But right now, I hope he gets his ass kicked from one end of the ring to the other. I really do. But anyway.
So does Kovalev.
Yeah, Kovalev. I'm relying on Kovalev to do it. But anyway, Brett goes on to say, by the way, Aaron, who is his son, was thrilled when you gave him a shout out on the show yesterday. You were wondering how old he is. Believe it or not, he's going to be 10. I don't believe it. I can't believe it because I could have sworn when I met Brett and his wife Melinda that Aaron was a baby. I remember I guess he must have been 2 years old or something. But geez, 10 years old already. Boy, does time fly. He said, and then that's exactly what Brett just says. Time flies, huh? And he says, by the way, you're not pissing me off about talking about Melinda. We get chuckles over this. Yeah, well, I love Melinda, and I did admit yesterday that Brett's a monster, Sal. If me and you stood toe-to-toe, on top of each other, stacked up, I think we might be as big as Brett, and
really?
I'm always talking about stealing his wife from him. One of these days I'm going to get this punch, and when I wake up a week later, I'm going to find out that it was from my man Brett from Canada. But anyway, he says, keep up the good work, guys. Your show rocks. Well, thanks, Brett, and we appreciate the interaction. And, I was mentioning that about the odds and how I feel about that. Another email. We got a bunch of emails today, Sal, and I had a bunch yesterday, too. So I love the interaction. Remember, if you take the time to drop us an email, we'll take the time to read it and comment on it. So this one's from your man. Did you send Joel a T-shirt yet?
It's going to be in the mail this week.
Okay, Joel, you're hearing that. You're hearing that, right, Joel?
I found it. Joel, I got it in my hands. It's a nice, white, beautiful,
and
size large T-shirt. And I'm going to go back on my email, find that address and everything else, and we're going to make it very special.
Because remember, Sal uses the Pony Express for his email service. So be patient, Joel. It'll get there, though. Trust me, they get there. But Joel says, hey, Billy C., with a PBC on FS1 tonight featuring Khalib Plant in the main event, it was nice to see boxing on Tuesday nights. But I was curious, do you feel PBC on FS1 is being used properly? I feel PBC on SF. What are you doing, Joel? I think he's. What did he do? Did you teach him how to promote other companies on our show without them paying?
I swear, I haven't had any conversation.
Here he is promoting.
Maybe once on Facebook.
Yeah,
I said, hey, Billy. I said, hey, Joe, you heard really? No, I'm teasing.
Yeah, he's promoting PBC. He's promoting a network. Neither one of them give us a nickel, Sal. Nobody promotes other people's shit more than you, but on this show. But anyway. Look, he even throws in the other network. He says PBC and FS1 and on Bounce. What are they paying him? But anyways, they should be used to build up and up-and-coming talent, as you feel of all the PBC cards, and most of them should be used for. I don't know much about Khalid Plant, but does he really have what it takes to be a top super middleweight? Well, interesting that you mentioned that, Joel. He's been hand-fed a bunch of cupcakes. Now, toe-to-toe Tuesdays, which is what PBC is doing on FS1. And, oh, by the way, if you recall, Golden Boy used to do fights on FS1 and walked away like a dog with a tail between their legs and let PBC, Al Heyman and his PBC series take over. But, we were talking last week with Larry about Tuesday Night Fights, which was one of my favorite series that I watched. And the difference between Tuesday Night Fights and what the PBC generally puts on. Now, they have, I got to put an asterisk next to that, Sal, because, they have put on some good, really good matchups with top-tier guys, a la Sean Porter and Keith Thurman. But these types of fights, Khalid Plant is fighting against Juan D'Angel tonight. That's not going to be a competitive fight. These are showcase fights. The difference between Tuesday Night Fights and what the PBC is doing is Tuesday Night Fights featured two guys that were pretty equal in talent level. And you got a chance to see these guys, and follow these guys on that series versus the PBC, which I believe is mostly showcase fights. And, you know, as much as you and I are going to have to watch this fight tonight, hopefully we could stay up for it and talk about it tomorrow. I don't see it being any of the three fights that are on tonight. I don't see any of them being any more than showcase fights for the A-side fighter. That's the biggest difference between the series that I used to watch, Tuesday night fights, and what we see on Toe-to-Toe Tuesdays. What do you think?
I think you said it right there. I'm with you. I concur 100%. And I'm a big proponent of showcasing some future stars with these network fights, and I think it's great to keep them in the living room and the names, so we can have recognition for them and follow them and get the fans all prepped up for them. I think it's great, but I think your core statement was true to follow.
This next email is from Alex T, the other Alex, if you will, and the subject is Big Baby. Now, you missed it yesterday, and they're talking about it in the chat room. They really, you should go back, and I kind of was in rare form. I didn't have you to.
I heard you were in rare form. Yeah. I can't believe it. I have one day off, and wow, you
what
explode
happened.
On the net.
I know, and normally, you keep me grounded a little bit, but yesterday I just got so riled up. I don't even know what happened. Like I didn't start the show like that, but I started mentioning it was this guy, Jarrell Big Baby Miller. He's talking smack, Sal. He's calling out guys. He's calling out Anthony Joshua. He's saying that Tyson Fury's scared to fight him, and he wants to fight everybody. He says he'll break Deontay Wilder. Now, I've been very critical of Deontay Wilder and his choice of opposition, but let me tell you, as much as I think that Deontay Wilder isn't what he thinks he is, and I don't even think he's the top heavyweight out there, he destroys Jarrell Big Baby Miller. But anyway, Alex T says, I wanted to chime in on this yesterday, but I got carried away talking about Steve Smoger. There's another one. You don't want to listen. Yeah, you don't want to be a fighter if Steve Smoger's the referee, because all he does, Sal, if he breaks up the two fighters, he rubs his privates all over the fighters. I swear to God, this guy gets a thrill.
I haven't noticed that.
Oh,
my God. To pay more attention. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the fighters.
It's sickening. It's sickening. That's all he does. He rubs his little pee-pee on them. He really does. He's
come on.
I'm not kidding
really?
you. Listen.
Come on, really?
Listen, when he gets in between them, I'm telling you. Well, first of all, he's got that body. He's shaped like
a tank.
Nah, he's a tank. He's shaped like Humpty friggin' Dumpty. Listen, he's if
I
the next
seen him in 10 years,
the next movie that Humpty Dumpty puts out, their fill-in is going to be Steve Smoger, because he's got that same body. He looks like a friggin' egg. He does, an egg with arms and legs.
I like Steve Smoger.
Oh, come on, you're dead to me now. So I'm gonna in a minute I'm gonna hang up on your ass. I am.
I haven't seen him since I fought.
He's a first of all, he's a scourge as a human being. He really is. Now he thinks. Listen, don't get me started on why he got kicked off the. Anyway, let me read this email. He says, I don't know what to make of Big Baby. See, Steve Smoger and Baby Miller both get me going, but. Anyway, he says, I don't know what to make of Big Baby. He looks very easy to hit. I was surprised Fred Cassie quit on the stool. This goes back to something I touched on a while back. There are no more journeyman heavyweights to test young prospects these days. A guy pads his record, then he automatically gets a title shot. Years ago, we had guys like Bigfoot Martin, Ross Purdy, Bert Cooper, Jesse Ferguson, etc. These were guys who would test a guy's chin, stamina, and skill level. These types of fighters aren't around anymore. My suspicion is Big Baby is going to get knocked out big time. I agree with that 100%. They're talking about him, and I know you didn't watch the fight, Sal, but if you get a chance, they're talking about him during the fight. Oh, he's so athletic. He's this, he's that. Athletic? Herman Munster looks like a triathlete compared to him. I mean, there was absolutely no athleticism displayed in the ring. And like I was saying to Dax yesterday, Lennox Lewis was athletic as a big guy. Vladimir Klitschko, athletic as a big guy. And whether you like Deontay Wilder or not, big guy, he's athletic. Big Baby Jarrell Miller is nowhere near athletic. He's a fat bastard is all he is. I mean, come on. And as far as the journeyman, there are journeymen out there today. Guys like Derek Chisora is a great example of a journeyman, but instead of testing young talent, what they do with these guys, and Derek Chisora, by the way, is scheduled to fight again in a couple of weeks, September 10th, against a 13-7 Drazen Janjanin, in Stockholm. And Janjanin is a guy that is 13-7. He's basically what they do with journeyman type fighters now in the heavyweight division is they get him a couple of wins, and then those guys get heavyweight shots, title shots. That's the joke of it now. He's right. We don't have those journeyman guys testing young fighters. They do in England, but not here.
No, and it's a shame because, what I used to love about the spoilers or the journeymen, they were good, as you said, because they were durable. They were always dangerous, and they can always turn a fight around. Yet they were continually just in front of you and a real good opposition for a young guy to try to really hone in on his skill. So it was a good fight because they were always dangerous.
Yeah, well, you never know with them.
You never know. It's like one of my friends used to say, wherever you're going, you're going to be there.
No,
like
that's what it is. Wherever you go, there you are is my line.
That's
all right?
it. I knew you'd correct me.
Come on. I got one more email here. This one's from Vinny. Hey, Vinny. What's up, Vinny? My grandson's name is Vinny. I love the little kid. But anyway, he says, hey, Billy C., bringing back a topic from last week, I agree that the current pay-per-view model of boxing will soon die and be replaced with a subscription-based service. This is what I was talking about. I talked to you about this a lot, but we were talking about it on air last week. He says, where you pay a few dollars a month, and all the fights will stream live over the internet or be available to watch the day after. I think it's going to be even a little different than that. I think that everything, I think television, the way it's delivered, is basically going to become what we kind of call the internet today. I think the internet is becoming entertainment. It's not, that division between television and internet shouldn't be there because everything is being transmitted. Even your cable, by the way, in case you guys didn't know that, anybody that's got cable TV, your cable signal is being broadcast via a satellite. So everything is coming that way, and it'll happen sooner than later. Anyway, he says part of the reason why boxing isn't catching on with us younger kids is because, see, I'm glad. So obviously, Vinny's a younger guy. Yeah, he says part of the reason why boxing isn't catching on with us younger kids is because we refuse to pay $120 for cable, which has HBO and Showtime, or $70 for a pay-per-view. We have student loans to pay off. He says Box Nation over in the UK does offer a subscription-based service, but it's limited to those only in the UK. With HBO and Showtime still having a strong hold on boxing in the United States, it'll be very difficult for another company to step in and modernize the model. Vinny, I'm real glad you chimed in on this because I'm always curious to know the mindset of young boxing fans, and I agree about the subscription. And in a sense, you could make the argument that I know Showtime, for example, if you don't subscribe to Showtime and there's a fight on a particular weekend that you want to watch, you can call your television provider and actually get Showtime for that one night. They do make that available. I know that for a fact on cable networks. Time Warner, I know for sure. Here I am promoting network, Sal, but and as well as DirecTV. As far as the Box Nation model, I think something like that could work here. But my question goes out to you, Vinny, and I appreciate your info on this, and I can definitely relate to that. But my question goes back to Vinny, and I hope he responds. For young boxing fans, I've been saying all along that I'm concerned that you guys aren't going to stay with the sport of boxing because of the types of fights that are shoved down your throats. And for situations just like Vinny is explaining here, that he refuses to pay, similar to other people in his age bracket. And, that's a concern for me for future boxing fans. How and why do you stay interested in the sport when you're watching fights that aren't competitive, or you're dealing with the world of a gazillion world champions and guys pounding their chests saying they're great, and referees rubbing their privates all over. I mean, what is keeping you into it? What could the sport do to make you a lifelong boxing fan like us old farts? I mean, we're going to stay boxing fans. I admitted yesterday I'll be a boxing fan whether it goes to crap or not. But I'm concerned with the new generation, Sal. I mean, what's going to keep them captivated? Surely, you can't. Don't call me Shirley. Surely you can't.
You're one step ahead.
Don't call me Shirley. But the bottom line is, I mean, if you're not going to be interested in looking forward to big fights, and you're constantly being shoved, layup and showcase fights, I mean, what's your prerogative to keep watching?
Well, that's so true. And, Bill, like I said, we were spoiled. I mean, we had every weekend on CBS Sports or Wild World of Sports on ABC. There I go. Am I plugging anybody right now?
Yeah, but wait. Yeah, but do you know what the difference is? You can make the argument now that it says, well, PBC's got it on NBC. We watch fights on NBC. But the difference is they were competitive fights that we watched.
Competitive. They were not only competitive fights, but we were always treated to either a title elimination bout or a world title fight. And they were always competitive. They were always great. It was not always, but I mean it was always one that you would look to and want to desire to see, because they were very competitive and they were right in our living room. It was a Saturday usually, or Friday night, and or Sunday afternoon, and we were home. We had it on our TV, free to see, and it was exposed, and we followed about it. We talked about it in school. We did this. We didn't have to worry about purchasing anything additional. That was what we got.
Yeah, we were home. This is Sal. We were home, playing Monopoly and Trouble, and we figured, there's some boxing on. Well, nowadays, kids can choose from I don't know how many hundreds, maybe even thousands of TV stations that you can watch. We had 3. We
had a total of 7, and you know what?
Not
Bill?
Me.
To this day, you know what? I was more entertained. I changed my channel less between 7 channels than I do between the hundreds we have today.
I know.
Because I can't find anything.
I know. Well, we're spoiled though. Come on. I mean, how many times do people say there is nothing on TV to watch, and there's like thousands of TV. You can watch. Hey, listen, you can watch Law and Order 24/7 on it. I mean, if you can't find a Law and Order episode on TV 24/7, 7 days a week, whatever, 365 days a year, then you ain't looking hard enough, because they're everywhere, man. But there's just so many options today for young people, technology and stuff like that. And I think that because of that, sports in general, not just boxing, has to be up with the times. You gotta keep them interested. I think that major team sports like the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, and hockey, for an example, even soccer. I'll tell you what, the Little League World Series, I've been watching every day. I love watching these kids. You got a pitcher, 12 years old, 6 foot tall, throws 70 miles an hour. It's like, holy crap. This guy, he's 12 years old. He's bigger than me. He's hurling a baseball faster than I can throw it, and I'm loving this. But they have the coverage, and this is the world today. After you're playing Monopoly and the boxing match comes on a Saturday afternoon, it's like, whoa, this is great. Now, they can watch anything, and why would you tune into boxing when you already know who the winners are going to be? I mean, it's pretty disheartening when you think about it.
No, it's true. It's true. It's just a different era, different culture we're swinging to. And it's just it's a shame, because, like I said, there's been a lot that get lost in translation of the old days to this day.
Before we came on air, I asked you about the big fight that took place on Sunday on network television between Errol Spence and Leonard Bundu. And Bundu was a guy that went the distance with Keith One-Time Thurman. And, Keith One-Time Thurman claims that he's the best welterweight in the world. Well, Errol Spence Jr. made a pretty bold statement on Sunday when he knocked out Bundu in 6 rounds, something that Keith Thurman couldn't do, and chose to avoid mixing it up with Bundu, and Spence went right in there, displayed power, displayed skills. What's your assessment of Errol Spence Jr.? Is he legit, and is he going to get a shot at a title soon?
Well, I have a new nickname for Errol Spence Jr. I'm going to call him Errol Flynn Spence Jr. because Errol Flynn was one of my favorite actors when he did the boxing about Gentleman Jim Corbett.
Excuse me, Sal. Sal. Most of our listeners probably don't even know who Errol Flynn is, so keep that in the back. Keep that in the back of your mind. So go ahead, finish your thought.
You're right.
Finish your thought.
Let's fast forward to Errol Spence Jr.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I saw the fight, and Leonard Bundu was a dangerous opponent, and this was a great test, a great fight. And I saw immediately Errol Spence went out there to try to establish his jab, and both fighters were fighting southpaw. So it was very, very interesting to see how this was going to be set. And, Spence did what he had to do to establish that jab. And I saw in round 1, Bundu came right back and over the jab and tried to really catch him off guard. So it was good fight on that level. I think pretty much Bundu was in the fight up until the very end. In the 3rd round, I saw this tide really change when I saw that Errol Spence caught him with a left uppercut. And that hurt him. And I think ultimately that was the combination. That was the punch that put him out for good there. That left uppercut in the 3rd round, I saw him just sneak it in. It was really devastating, the left one. And then ultimately in the 6th, I think he caught him with that again and put him out. But it was a good fight. It was a good fight. Like I said, Bundu was in the fight, but Leonard kept establishing that jab, that distance. I saw him take his shots. I saw Bundu come over and try to catch him too. He was trying to be effective with his aggression and cut the ring off, but Spence was a superior fighter, I'm telling you that.
I mentioned yesterday the referee in that fight, Sal, Johnny Callis. I've actually worked with him several times, and for the most part, he's a pretty decent referee. Mm-hmm. But I think he really avoided a huge blunder, and thank God that it didn't turn out really bad, because in that 6th round there was a shot. And some people think it was a short shot to the head. It looked like a body shot. It could have been 2 shots ultimately that put Bundu down. And Johnny Callis missed it, and he called it a slip. And I didn't like that. And when Bundu got up, he was. From TV. Now remember, from TV, Sal, I mean, nobody gets a better view of a fighter and in their eyes and so on and so forth than the referee. But from TV, it looked to me that Leonard Bundu was actually a little surprised that Johnny Callis didn't call that a knockdown, and Johnny Callis is waving them on to continue. And it was pretty obvious to me from my living room that Leonard Bundu was still in some trouble. And ultimately, Spence moved in for the kill and proved that he's a finisher. And it was pretty scary seeing Leonard Bundu, who had never been knocked out before, laying there with his leg twisted under his body, and he was literally out cold.
He was out. He was out.
And I think that Johnny Callis, his mistake, he dodged a bullet for something very disastrous that could have happened. I think he dodged a bullet. What's your thoughts on him missing that knockdown?
Well, and I of course I scored it and saw it. That was definitely a knockdown. Definitely a knockdown. How he said it was a slip, I tried to look at it over and over and over again. I didn't see any slip. That was a knockdown. And I don't know. I mean, that's going to be opening up, for his next title fight that he's going to referee. I mean, he's definitely going to have to answer to that, because that was a legit knockdown. That definitely opened it, the whole beginning of the end for Bundu in that round.
Yeah, well, again,
and how do you recover? I mean, that was a legit knockdown. Should have been given a standing 8 count. Give him an extra couple seconds to clear his head if he could. But he had no time. He couldn't. He was out on his feet at that point, a little disoriented, and boom, the end was near.
I like what Bundu said after the fight. He said, and keeping in mind this was the first time he was ever stopped. He says, he, meaning Errol Spence, certainly lived up to the hype. Errol was more precise than Keith Thurman. Errol threw more punches than Thurman and was fresh in every round. Now, something that, Keith Thurman was criticized for running out of gas. He says, I really tried to get up, but I couldn't. I'm okay, though. I feel all right. To me, that speaks volumes. That's a lot of credit that, especially comparing the two fighters. And Leonard Bundu is a guy that could, because he faced both. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He faced both. And this is the same Errol Spence who just fought in the Olympics, correct? And got beat?
No. That was this Olympics, but the last one.
No.
Yeah.
But Errol Spence had a great history in this sense. And when he came up in this fight, like I said, I was just referring back to his Olympics experience. I mean, this guy's got some experience, and he proved to be a good finisher. And what I liked about him, he looked at where he was throwing his punches. He knew where they were going to land. He was very accurate, and I saw him go to the body. And like I said, that uppercut and everything else, he got his distance. He was effective, even though Bundu was trying to come in on him and aggressive and threw some combinations. I'll tell you, that was a lot of accolades from Bundu to Spence, and I think he deserved and earned them all.
Yeah. I just hope that, some of these fighters now that are busting onto the scene that are actually changing the landscape of boxing or have the potential to change the landscape of boxing continue to move forward with big fights and big tests. Here I am kind of talking negatively of Keith Thurman, but I respect Keith Thurman for fighting the level of opposition he's fought in his last half a dozen fights, including the great fight between he and Sean Porter, which a lot of people are praying that we get an announcement soon of a rematch. And these guys, the Errol Spence Jr.'s and Keith Thurman's and Sean Porter's of the sport can really turn this thing around. I'm convinced, even though I was wrong. I know it's kind of hard for me to say that, but I know. It didn't flow off my.
Remember, Fonzie had a hard time saying that.
I know. Well, I have a hard time too. But anyway, even though I was wrong predicting that the PBC would be dead and gone by May of this year, it's a foregone conclusion that it is suffering a slow death right now. The numbers, despite being extremely high for Sunday's fights, is not indicative of the revenue that's coming in, because there isn't any. Remember, they're paying the networks, with the exception of Bounce TV with the exception of Spike TV and Showtime. Every other network that PBC is on, they paid them. PBC paid them to broadcast the fights. So these contracts are up. Like we talked about ESPN's contract with PBC. It's up. The last fight took place last week. So it's going to be interesting to see if ESPN continues with boxing on their own, or if they pay PBC, because the only way the PBC can survive now is if all these networks that they paid turn around and say, your numbers were good enough, we want to pay you to put your series on our network. And I don't think that's going to happen. Now, keep in mind, Al Heyman, some people think he's the devil of boxing. Some people think he's the god of boxing. The truth of the matter is whether he's the devil or the god, he hasn't reached in his pocket for one penny. He's been using other people's money. And the best part for Al, he doesn't give a crap about the fighters or the saving the sport. He cares about his own bank account, because FYI, boys and girls, Al Heyman has pocketed plenty of money with the PBC series, not in sales, not in advertising, not in anything but his cut of the fighters that he's getting the PBC, which is whose people's money, Sal?
Our.
Not yours. Other people's money. He's been taking a piece of that from the purses, and he's been putting that in his bank. So the truth of the matter is Al Heyman is not losing a penny. He's not spending a penny, and he's making plenty of pennies through the PBC. So when it fails and crashes and burns, which most people believe is only time will tell, and it's heading that way quicker than you think, he's going to walk away profiting a lot of money. So he doesn't reach. And I love when people say, well, Al Heyman's paying the guy. No. Al Heyman doesn't pay anybody anything. Al Heyman makes. He takes. He doesn't pay. He doesn't give. Well, he takes.
I hope, and I'm going to tell you this. We've been talking for a while now about the landscape of boxing and what you referred to earlier. You mentioned the Porters, the Thurmans, this one, that one. I told you, there's going to be enough of these kind of fighters out there that are going to sustain the interest and the anticipation for us to keep on the edge of our seats to still want to see the boxing. So these guys will keep boxing alive in our living room, and for the fan out there wanting to talk. And I want Al Heyman and the PBC to succeed because they are being a catalyst to try and do this and try to give us world-class boxing with good matches in our living rooms for free. And you know what? Whether they change the program or they change the sponsorship or the whole thing, it evolves. I just hope that this succeeds because this will be one of the best little things for boxing that we can find.
Listen, I agree that I like. It comes back to a topic we talked about a while ago. It's like the way I look at restaurants, Sal. Up here in the Adirondack Mountains, when I first moved up here full time, the one thing I noticed about a lot of people when they would say, "Oh, go to so and so's place." Notice how I don't mention it because I don't want to give them a free plug. But go to so and so's restaurant. The food is great. And I would go to so-and-so's restaurant, and I thought the food was garbage, And I'm saying to myself, why do these people think that this food is so good? Well, a lot of the reason was that these restaurants that the locals felt were good were because they gave you a lot of food for a cheap price. They were looking at quantity versus quality. Now, don't get me wrong. I like to, eat. I don't like when you go to a restaurant and they give you a piece of filet mignon that's the size of a quarter. I don't like that. But
you're wanting more.
Yeah, you can't. Hey, you're going to finish that pea, or you want to split this pea with me?
I'll take a double.
It's like, hey, would you like a French fry to go with that? Geez, I don't know if I could finish a whole French fry. You mind just giving me a half a French fry? But anyway, my point is I like quality, and I think that the PBC, although they've given us quantity, they've been far and few in between with quality. And as much as I agree with you that I would love to see them continue moving forward, my only adjustment, if I had any say, would be to stop with the showcase fights. Start putting on more, evenly matched fights. Now, I'm not looking for Sean Porter against Keith Thurman on every single PBC broadcast. Don't get me wrong. But what I would like to start to see is like what you and I talk about. You watch on Wild World of Sports on a Saturday afternoon, or on NBC or CBS, or Tuesday Night Fights, or the old Friday Night Fights, or even older, the Gillette Friday Night Fights. I mean, these fight cards that were broadcast were generally putting two equally matched fighters against each other, a la the Heather Hardy against Shelley Vincent fight this past weekend, were two evenly matched fights. And for all intent purposes, until the fight took place, Errol Spence against Leonard Bundu was evenly matched too. We saw that Errol Spence, came out of that, looking like he was way, way better. But you can only have the fight before you can determine that. I just can't see watching mismatches like tonight, toe-to-toe Tuesdays. Juan D'Angel against Khalid Plant. That is not going to be a competitive fight. Khalid Plant is no killer, but D'Angel is just a punching bag. I'd be shocked if it becomes an evenly matched fight. To me, just watching who is going to win is not entertaining at all, and not good for the sport, Sal.
No, I agree with you. But, one of the things like this PBC, or one of the things that it's yielding, like you said, or like the fans have said, we just saw Errol Spence do a great job against Leonard Bundu. And what are we automatically assessing in our heads and saying, wow, what a great fight it would be to see Earl Spence versus Keith Thurman and all this. So we're talking about it. That's how boxing evolved into great fights. We would see a fight, and all of a sudden we'd do our own calculations. We'd almost demand that the fans would say, wow, this would be a great match. Why can't we see this? And you'd see a promoter say, hey, you know what? We're going to have a great fight. Let's promote this. So there was the interest. And that's what I think the fights in the living room coming to you live will help yield, will help create the interest, will help keep everybody entertained and wanting to see things happen. I'm just saying that, you know.
No, you're right. But here's another negative about Al Heyman. Al Heyman has so many fighters under contract, right? And what happens is Al Heyman has to continue keeping these guys busy. So what we see on these showcase fights is one of his guys fighting some proverbial punching bag, and it's not a competitive fight. Then the next time we see another one of his fighters fighting another proverbial punching bag, which is not a competitive fight. And at the end of the day, we don't really get to know these fighters. The biggest difference and the biggest asset for shows like the old Friday night fights and Tuesday night fights, et cetera, was the fact that you kind of got to see a fighter a couple of times. It was how you got to know a fighter. It was how you became a fan of that fighter. That is what we're missing today. You know, Errol Spence Jr. has been on TV before, but really, I would imagine that a lot of fight fans got to see him for the very first time this past Sunday. You know, and it's the same for a lot of fighters. And then immediately they go from that one fight here, let's tell you a little about this guy, and then bam, the next one, they're on a major cable network or something. So I think that, yes, we have a lot of boxing on TV right now, but there's so much that it's hard to follow if you're a new fan. If you're a fan that's trying to, you know, attach to a boxer and follow that guy and have him be your guy, so to speak, or in Heather Hardy and Shalito Vincent's case, your female boxer, you want to see them a couple of times. You want to get to know their style, you know. And I think that's one of the biggest voids. That's why I think that webcasting boxing, especially for the club show level, is the key. And the problem is promoters today don't want to reach into their pocketbook. They don't want to spend any money. I've said this for years now, and it's so true. Promoters don't want to promote, Sal. They just want to take the easiest way, make the most money, and walk away. I mean, you know, it's the same thing when you think of safety first for the fighters. Yeah, when you put yourself in their position to you know, be safe and make money the easiest way they can, you know, it's hard to argue. When you put yourself in a promoter's position to you know, risk nothing and make a lot of money in return, you know, it's hard to argue. But when you put yourself in the fan's position, you want to get something for your money. You want to buy a ticket to an event. You want to go there and wonder who's going to win the fight, not knowing that everybody in the red corner or the blue corner is going to win tonight, because those are the promoters' fighters, and that happens a lot. You know that.
I know that, you know, and if I win the lottery, you and I are going to start our own promotional outfit, and we're going to start our own division of boxing that's going to go back to 15 rounds. It's going to do a couple things that you and I have always talked about, but that's fantasy right now. That's like fantasy football. That's fantasy boxing. But I'm telling you, you're right. And promoters of yesteryear, we used to give the credit to the Lou Duva's main event. I'm not plugging everybody I shouldn't be. Or of course, one of the greatest promoters, certainly in my lifetime, has been Don King. And, you know, Bob Arum certainly has to be in the mix. And Teddy Brenner as a matchmaker. These guys, they were the old school. And this was how boxing was cultivated and massaged and put into our living rooms. And made a title fighter, made something enormous. And, you know, Don King, you know, like Muhammad Ali, Don King spewed out more verbs and more words than we could keep track of. But guess what? His fights usually backed up the words of how the anticipation, how the excitement, and how the valuable this fight would be. And they were great.
Well, I think what made Don King so successful when he was, you know, active was the fact that he made you feel that if you didn't buy his fight or buy a ticket to his fight, that you were missing out on something. As far
yes, bingo, you hit it right on the head.
And
because it would be there was more fights in the century. I feel like I lived 1,000 years.
I know, but I mean, talk about words. The guy would make up his own words. I mean, I think Webster was scratching his head after Don King would do a discussion. But,
I'm telling you, he did that. And he'd always put a certain title or moniker with the fight. He'd call it like the Rumble in Jungle. This one there. It made me think about, hey, when my comeback, I'm going to call it the comeback to reality. So that was taken off a Don King kind of style.
Well, I tell you,
I miss those days.
Promoters need to promote because a successful promoter is what gets the word out. And a lot of people today are they feel that all they got to do is post it on Facebook or do a tweet or something, and that's it. That's all. The old time promotion still works. We're going out there and meeting the potential ticket buyers and everything else. It still works. It's just laziness that takes place with promoters today. And the other problem we talk about all the time is the fact that networks and promoters feel that they can't sell a fight unless the fighter's undefeated or unless he's fighting for some kind of title. So because of that stupidity, because really it's stupid. It's stupid. We stupid.
Is like stupid.
He's
does.
stupid. But remember the shirts? I'm with stupid, and it had like an arrow pointing to the person next to it. Anyway, it is kind of stupid that. That's the mindset, and what we've had here, and I'd like again, my man Vinny, a younger fan. Do you only watch fights that titles are on the line, or that's featuring an undefeated fighter? Because that's all skewed. I mean, we could come up with a title. There's so many titles out there. I mean, we just count the 4 major ones, but there's way more titles. There's a fight going on, I think, this weekend for an IBU or you be me or she be her type belt. I don't know, but the bottom line is that's so false. Back in the day, if you became a top 10 contender, you were number 10. Now you were a badass, man. Now, if in the let's say the middleweight division, there could be 40 guys running around saying they're number 10 or that they're in the top 10. 40 guys saying they're in the top 10 when they used to only be 10 in the top 10. You know what I mean? I mean,
that's my math.
Yeah. Well, listen, when I added up all the champions a couple months ago, I was shocked. And not all the belts were filled. 73 world champions. There's 17 weight classes among the top 4 sanctioning bodies. There was 73 guys that were claiming to be world title holders with all the interim and super and regular championships. Back in the day, 8 classes, 8 people walking around saying they were world champion. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Right. 8. So who's a better fighter? A guy that's a world champion when there was 8 divisions and only 10 contenders, or a guy when there's 17 weight divisions, 73 champions, and you're saying you're a champion? No wonder why nobody knows who the champions are anymore. Nobody knows. How the hell can you keep up with it?
That's unbelievable. You're so correct with that, and that's part of it. I mean, like you said, we grew up. There were 8 world champions, and there were 10 contenders in each weight class, and that we kept our eye on, that were spotlighted, that were highlighted, that were in the contention of getting a title fight or a title elimination bout between the top 10, between the top 2 ranked 10. I mean, it was always in the mix. And if you're lucky enough to become part of the top 10, we knew your name, we knew who you were, we knew a little bit of your history. Because it was a lot easier then. It just got so lost in the translation of what we're trying to promote, and with the different weight classes, the different divisions, the different sanctioning bodies. I mean, it's an onslaught of people that's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, and it's just, listen, it's just, we'll never go back to 8 weight divisions, so that's never going to happen. But at least we could look at things a little differently and put a value on fighters that have a couple of losses, that were in tough fights, that maybe were robbed in a fight. We could demand as boxing fans more rematches in close fights and all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, the fan drives the sport. So anyway,
yes.
Don't forget, right, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be doing our Blast from the Past on Purnell, Sweet Pea Whitaker. Larry Hazard scheduled to join us. Now, we don't have a live show scheduled for Thursday, but we will be back on Friday with Fan Driven Friday. Now, Sal, as we wrap it up here, I got a trivia question. Now, I've had a couple that nobody's gotten. I've gotten some really good answers and stuff. So I want to give out the answer of the last one because this is a tough one, and I don't think anybody's going to get it. So I'm going to give out the answer. The question was, what former world champion was recruited not once but twice from the audience to substitute for a boxer who was not able to appear? Now, I gave some hints, and one of the big ones was that there was two guys with the same name, and that was the case with this one. The answer is Willie Ritchie, which is pronounced Ritchie, Ritchie. And in 1911, Willie Ritchie was a spectator at a match between Freddie Welsh and Ad Wolgast, both Hall of Famers, when it was discovered that Wolgast could not appear. Ritchie stepped in and went 20 rounds but lost the decision. 3 months later, he stepped in for Packy McFarland and went 6 rounds with a no-decision contest with Young Earn. So, there's a guy who's a former world champion, and these guys that he stepped in with, were no slouches. These were all, world-class, top-level opposition that he stepped in there with. So that was the answer. Now, today, I have another question, and I'm going to give the first person that can get this right by emailing me, Billy@Tuckin Boxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. A great prize. Now, there's one person that's not eligible for this because he's won it before, and that's my man, Coach. And, Coach, don't give anybody the answer. I know Coach knows this answer. He's got a whole wing in his house. When I met him down at your place, well, I met him before that, but when he came down and supported us,
that was great. What a surprise that was.
His wife even told me that they built an addition to put all the prizes and books and stuff that he's won on this show with the trivia question. So yeah, Coach, you can't get this one, and don't tell anybody the answer. But here's the question. So if you're the first one to email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TALKINBOXING.com, you'll win a prize. It's basically who said this, all right? Who said, to see a white man really worrying about me changed my whole life. To see a white man really worrying about me changed my whole life. If you know this answer on who said that, and you email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TALKINBOXING.com, you'll win a great prize. So good luck to everyone on that. And actually, I will tell you this. He was one of my favorite fighters back in the day. And I know you've seen him times, too. And, you could take a guess tomorrow before we give the answer out, because I have a feeling somebody's going to get this one. But
I'm going to say it would definitely. I'll make it easier. You could qualify this or not. It's got to be a fighter from the 50s and 60s. Maybe 40s. 70s.
Ding, 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 ding. So,
right.
Anyway, I mean, you only had a couple of decades to go.
Right off the top of my head, the fighter from the 70s.
Yeah, I tell you right now, Sal, you only had a few centuries to go through. I
was working on a decade.
Yeah, I know, but if you would have kept going in the opposite direction, you would have been, talking about. Yeah. Hey, you would have been talking about Jesus before he had the beard, So,
with that last, I got the U-turn in mind,
Yeah, I was going to do and the survey says, but anyway.
Good answer. Good
answer. But anyway, Sal, I look forward to tomorrow's show. So I want everybody to make sure. Get ready, Sal. I want everybody to make sure that they tune in tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.